When you're ready to start designing your logo, you'll go into Photopea or Photoshop and you're going to create a new document. And we're going to click New Project here, or in Photoshop, you can do File New. Over here, it's a good idea to give your project a name that's going to make sense. So I'm going to type in logo. For width, I'm going to do 2,000. You could do probably anywhere up until about 5,000. You just don't want to put uh, too big of a number in there or it can freeze the program. Make sure it's set to pixels, not inches. And then DPI, which is dots per inch, we are going to change that from 72 to 300, and then we will click Create. Now this is going to create a blank canvas. Whoops. There we go. I realized I should have changed DPI first. I'm actually going to rescale this down to 2,000 for both height and width. Okay. If you ever need to do that, it's just image, and then you can do canvas size or image size, whatever works best for you. So now I kind of start with this blank. You can kind of imagine it as a blank paper. Now you can, just like in the logo design video we watched last class, you can take a photo of your logo design. So I'll pull up my images here. You could take a photo of whatever design you decided to go with and import that, upload it into Photopea if that works. For me, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start with, I believe it was this one that was the strongest logo. And you have to figure out what is going to be the tool that makes the most sense. So for mine, I was thinking that the pen tool probably made a good amount of sense. I also am going to have a letter V in my design, so I will probably actually start with my type tool. So I'm just going to click on the type tool. I can click anywhere on my canvas. I'm going to type a V. It's going to look really small because we have such a big canvas here, but I can highlight that tiny V. And I'm going to actually put a custom size in. I'm going to do, let's do 300. Oh, let's do even more than that. Let's do 700, 900, 1,000. There we go. Okay. So I have a big V here, but I know that I want it to be more like a script font, and they want it to be more elegant anyways. So I'm going to change this to a script font and pull this up. It's going to be nice and slow. It's the only downside of using big images or big files in Photopea is that it can be kind of slow. All right, so we are going to look for possibly a script font that will work with this letter V to kind of give me the look I'm going for. It's not going to be the same. Ooh, I kind of like that one actually. Okay, so that one's called Diggery Doodles. I'm going to keep that in the back of my head. I kind of like that one too. So with my design, one side of the V is going to become the swan's head, I should say. Let's see, this one. I don't like that one as much. That one's not too bad either, actually. Actually, you know what? I think we're going to stick with that one. So this one's called England Hand, and I am also going to make this a little bit bigger even. So let's try 1,500 because I want it to be pretty big. And with this V, I'm going to manipulate this a little bit because I think I'm going to make this part of the V look like the swan's head. I think that if that makes the most sense, but I want it to be a little more upright because right now it's really slanted. So I'm going to do edit and then, or actually edit free transform. And then I'm going to rotate that. So I'm going to go to the corner. I'm just going to rotate it up a little bit. Yeah, I think something like that. And at this point, I could even drag it, make it bigger if I want to, scale it around, make sure it still fits inside that box. I'll click enter on the keyboard. All right, I've got to start. Now I got to think about how I'm going to draw this swan head. And I think I'm going to use the pen tool for this. You could technically use the brush tool, but for something like a logo, you typically want to stick with more like your shapes, your pen tool, your type tool, things that are going to make much cleaner lines. Whereas if I took my brush and I'm using my mouse right now and I tried to draw in, click OK to rasterize, draw in, it's going to be a little rougher. So I'm going to use my pen tool. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I have my pen tool here. I'm going to have it set to fill with black. I'm not going to do a stroke. I don't care about an outline. And let's just see what happens. It'll basically make a new layer here. I might even zoom in so I can see it just a little better. All right, so with the pen tool, and actually I kind of like this black portion here, so I might even just keep that there. So again, with the pen tool, this is a way to make designs or shapes, I should say, custom shapes, just by clicking. I'm just clicking and dragging. I'm kind of looking at my reference image over to the side here. And that kind of swoops down. Now, if I was using Photoshop, I'd probably switch to my curvature pen tool because this is a little on the rough side, but I'm just doing this as an example. Sometimes when you're doing the pen tool, you want to drop the opacity so you can see what's underneath. So I like to do that because I want to follow the line of my V here without cutting in too much. There we go. Okay, so I kind of have like the basic shape. I should at this point have the basic shape. It's shape 1 now. If I bring that opacity back up, you can kind of see the shape that I have. Again, it's not perfect, but I'm just kind of moving ahead so I can show you a few different things. So looking at it, I would probably change some things here, but I'm going to actually do something on the inside here. I want to get rid of some of this black. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool. I'm going to choose white this time. We're basically going to do, whoops, make sure you don't have your other shape selected. I'm going to do a new layer. There we go. Okay. So the new layer is going to have some white inside of it. Make sure that that's selected to white. And then I should click around here because swans have some white in them. I could just kind of follow that along. So I'm just going to basically make kind of a white interior space. Again, this is not my best work. Just remember that. I don't know if I like it all that much, but we can kind of get the idea here. Whoops. Go back on that first point. There's my shape. I'm going to zoom out. Let's take a look at it. Okay, it's not terrible. It's not my favorite, but you get the idea. So that's just using the shape tool. The pen tool. The shape tool, though, is also really useful. So looking at this overall design, I was thinking of kind of playing around with the shape of the V, but then also probably putting it into a certain shape. So first I'll do actually, let's just do the shape first. So I'm going to grab my shape here. Let's say I want a circle going around the whole thing. So I'm going to grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to click and drag, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to hold shift, and that's going to create a perfect circle. I can then let go of both, and it created that circle. This looks kind of weird because it's in the middle of all my layers. So I'm going to drag it below the other layers, and I'm going to fill it with a different color. Now their color scheme, they wanted like black and gray, but I also can go back to the color scheme I generated or created earlier and maybe play around with a color in there as well. I believe I decided, at least in one class, I decided on a purple. So I might actually even grab a purple here. It's going to be like a dark purple though. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so the dark purple is behind it, and we want our design in the inside. Now, looking at my V shape and my overall shapes that I have going on here, they're on their separate layers right now, and if I want to resize all of these at once, I probably want to just combine them. So I'm going to combine layer 1, shape 1, and the V together. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can right click on the layer and you can just do merge down. Or if you hold down shift and you click on the layers you want to combine and then right click, you can click merge layers. And now you'll see that they are all on one layer. And I'm actually going to rename this to V so I can remember what layer that is. So now I want the V to fit inside of the circle. So now I need to do some resizing and go to Edit, Free Transform, or Alt-T, Control-Alt-T. And I'll just scale down the V so it fits on the inside here. And I might even have it go from the edge of the circle to the other edge. So I'll just kind of line it up. I'm going to click and drag till it's to the very edge. There we go. I'll click enter. And now I want to move the other side of the V so it's higher up, meeting the edge. So there are a couple ways that you can do that. In Photoshop, there is a transform feature. It'll let you, Photopea and Photoshop, it'll let you warp and play around with kind of the overall shape. So let's just see what happens when I do warp. Okay, so warp is kind of fun because it'll let you click and drag points around, and you'll notice as I click and drag, and it's kind of slow, it's starting to move this side over a little bit. So I'm basically just manipulating my letter to kind of fit the space. I have too many tabs open, so I'm sure that's not helping. And at any point, it's a good idea to just do File, Save as PSD to make sure you don't lose your file. You have a previous save file then, hopefully. There we go. Okay, so I just saved it. I'm going to do Edit, Transform, Warp again. Let's see if I can make this meet the top. Oh, it's getting there, so close. If I bring this side over, oh yeah, there we go. You know what? That's pretty close. Maybe just a tad more. All right, and then I'll hit enter on the keyboard. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. Does it fit within the circle well? Let's see. You know, I think it does. Now, again, the V is kind of hard to see. There's something, I'm not a huge fan of what I did here with my swan. This is not my best work. But what I could do is I could right click on this layer and go to blending options now. And now I could maybe add like a stroke around the outside so I could see it a little better maybe. Obviously not red. Maybe do a gray. Let's see, like a lighter gray color. Click OK. Yeah, that's not too bad. I can increase the size of that stroke if I want to, or bring it down. Might keep it around like 2 or 3. Just enter it in because it's being so laggy. And don't forget that there's inner glow, there's outer glow, there's pattern overlays. You could do a gradient if you want to. Feel free to play with that. Click OK. All right. So far, not too bad. I could keep playing with this. If you have the name of your company, you know, you might put that in there somewhere. Or if I need to make my canvas a little bigger, I can go to Image, Canvas Size. And I'm just going to make sure it's anchored in the middle here. Let's just do 3000 by 3000. I'll show you what happens here. So this is canvas size, not image size. Okay, so it gave me more space around the outside. So let's say I want it to say Vex, like arced underneath this circle. I can click on the type tool here, and I am going to highlight that and make this smaller. So let's do 1000. Okay, so Vex. I don't think I should use the same font that I used for the V, so I'm going to change that. Let's change it to something else that might work. And I'm actually thinking maybe something even a little more modern. Just remember to go off of your client's requirements. They said they wanted a script typeface in there, but that doesn't necessarily mean they want script for everything. So I have the script here already for the V. Let's see what it looks like with more of a modern sans serif typeface. And I actually think this one's almost mono too. I think doing all lowercase is kind of elegant. I kind of like that. So we're going to highlight this. I'm going to drop the size down, or even more. Let's do like 500. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, okay. I like that. I'm going to space those out. So I'm going to increase the kerning on that. I think that that just kind of helps it balance out a little more, and it does add a little bit of elegance to it. So now, in order to change my type here, you can click on warp, and warp will also allow you to warp your text basically. If you click on none here, you can do arc. It's very similar in Photoshop. It does look a little different, but very similar. It'll just be like a little icon with like, it's like a T with a little arch, and it will let you kind of play around with the overall arch of your, or shape of your text. Oops, come on. I just want 0. There we go. Okay, so you can make it kind of follow the bend of the circle. I'll click OK. Use my move tool to move that up. Not too shabby. Now, it's important to remember that logos are used in different formats. So you could find a logo on a sign. You can find logos on business cards. You can find logos on coffee mugs. Okay, I got a coffee mug. Magazines. It's a good idea to zoom out of your logo, like zoom out quite a bit and take a look at it and just evaluate it. Can I tell what it is? Can I see what it is? And looking at it right now, that black and the purple, they're kind of fighting each other. So that tells me I probably have to change my color choices or make my design a little bit more obvious or stand out a little more. And you can even do this while zoomed out. So maybe for this V, if I right click on this and go to blending options, maybe I can try doing some kind of outer glow. So I'm going to click on outer glow here. I'm going to highlight that. Make sure you actually click on it. I'm going to choose white for my outer glow. Click OK. I'm not really seeing much yet, but I might once I increase the size and the spread. So let's see what happens here. Is this going to make my V design stand out a little more or not? We'll see. Ooh, it's starting to stand out a little more, I think. Okay, I'll increase that a little more. Let's see what it looks like. Increase the size a little more. It's just kind of helping it pop a little. Here we go. And I'm doing outer glow instead of inner glow. Let's click OK on that. Okay, so I actually like that. Let's zoom in now. Let's see if it caused any issues with it zoomed in. And it might have a little bit on the outside here, so that tells me I need to just resize the V. So I'm going to go to Edit, Pre-Transform. We're just going to make it a little smaller so the glowing part isn't on the outside of the circle. We don't want that to be there. Just a little more, a little bit down here. So it's almost to the edge, but not completely. Something that might help too is to show like the grid or the guides, or if you have snap selected, that can really help you figure out like the center of things and where to line things up. I know in Photoshop it will show you different little like guidelines too, so it's just something kind of useful that I like to play with. Okay. And just a reminder too about your shape layers. So if you have not rasterized your shape layer yet, you can just click on the shape and then the shape tool, and I can still change the color of this circle. So if I wanted like a lighter blue, or sorry, lighter purple, I could change it that way. Maybe I don't want purple anymore, or maybe I want actually kind of a gray purple might make the most sense, kind of like that. I'll click OK. I actually really like that. I think that works. Okay, so zoom in, zoom out, really evaluate your design. And then my background, I'm actually going to just turn that off. I just want it to be transparent. And the reason why is because I'd like to be able to put this on multiple things, and it's going to help when I do my mock-up. So I'm going to do File and then Export as PNG when I'm ready. Save it as a PSD too, so that way you have a backup copy in case you need to make any changes or fix something. So save as PSD, but we're really exporting it as a PNG. That's the main requirement. And then in my next video, I will show you how to do the mock-up.